Ladies and gentlemen, you've reached Politomato. My name is Mike, and I know we've all been waiting for some sort of prosecution for all the fraud that has come directly from the Democratic Party. That is literally a criminal organization, no different than the Mafia, MS-13, or the Triads. And it seems that our wait is finally over and we're just getting started. Reports indicate that Trump's administration, the FBI, the DOJ, the DNI, and CIA are developing a comprehensive 10-year conspiracy case against the Democratic Party. The investigation reportedly aims to file RICO charges, treating the party as a criminal organization. Former campaign advisor George Papadopoulos provides some really great details on these developments. So let's give George a listen here, and then we'll move on to something else.
What the DOJ's done here is by looking at the Democrat Party as a whole, as a criminal organization, in parallel to how the mafia was viewed during the time of Mayor Giuliani in New York. It allowed them to extend the time clock by looking at the Democrat Party as some sort of criminal entity that has been basically waging lawfare and engaging in criminal activities for at least 10 years, going back to 2015 up through Joe Biden. So this is not simply about Donald Trump's first term and things that happened to myself and others. This goes into the 2020 election, impeachment 1.0, 2.0, all of the shenanigans during the lawfare effort against candidate Trump this past election and how he valiantly fought back against all of that. This is why this is the most important and significant investigation in modern American history, and it's being conducted with the right people at the right time.
I can certainly understand if many people on the right were to say, oh, come on, they always say that they're going to prosecute, and nothing ever happens. As an example, we just had James Comey, who was under investigation. We all thought we had him dead to right, that he was going to spend years in jail, and what happened? He got off scot-free. So for all the doubters out there, I would say that you would be totally justified in this thinking. But this is a different kind of presidency, one that seems to understand the importance of issues not being leaked, especially to the liberal news industrial complex. So it is possible that things actually have been happening behind the scenes and we're just not privy to the information yet. So let's just listen to the rest of what George has to say, and I know you're going to like it.
Egregious way where Americans, I think, are demanding aggressive action. And every one of the aggressive things that Trump has done that the press has, clutched their pearls and clucked their tongues about is actually more popular than Trump is. Arresting people for the auto pen, more popular than Trump is. Arresting people for, blowing up narco boats, like that was more popular than Trump is. Literally everything, including even nabbing Maduro, is more popular than Trump is. 51% approved of U.S. military action to capture Maduro. Only, 41% disapproved. Only 28% strongly disapproved.
But now to answer the elephant question in the room. What exactly might the Democrats be charged with, you might ask? So let's start with tax and welfare fraud. Similar to what we've seen in Minnesota, most likely also exists in California, and really probably is a countrywide issue. Then we can move on to how the Democrats completely opened up the border and allowed illegals from all over the world to invade our country and trade for votes. Also, how about how 22 Democratic states refused to hand over their voter rolls? I don't know about you, but that screams voter fraud to me. Let's move on to how they continue to steal our tax dollars, funnel it through NGOs, and then circulate the money back to the Democratic campaign fund. Now, what I think is extremely possible, because people tend to have very short memories, is that maybe the Trump team waited until now to come forward with this info, since the midterms really are just around the corner in November. And really, if they would have come out with this information a year ago, by the time the midterms got here, we all would have forgotten about it. I have no actual evidence to back this up, but I think it's a strong possibility. Now let's listen to some further info from a well-known pollster.
I actually spent last week in Minneapolis, and there's two parallel stories. There is a panic within the Somali community. They've been found out for these massive fraud schemes, daycares, transportation, fake autism services, the whole nine yards. But the political question is very important, and my sources in Minneapolis state government say that there are open inquiries into the potential involvement at the highest level of Minnesota politics. And so I think people will be taking a hard look not only at Governor Tim Walz, but also Congresswoman Ilhan Omar and State Attorney General Keith Ellison. We know that they have connections with convicted fraudsters. The question is, were they merely complicit in these schemes, or were they part of a broader conspiracy? We don't have strong evidence now, but I think people are starting to take a look.
Well, what we do know is that Ellison promised these guys he'd make the investigation go away, and then he got money as a donation. We know that whistleblowers alerted the Walz administration, and he didn't take any action. And we know a couple of these people, like Omar, got money from these convicted fraudsters as political donations. Are you saying that there could have been a conspiracy to move the welfare fraud money into their war chests?
It's certainly possible. And I think the person, and really I'm grateful for it, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, has all the tools at his disposal to actually investigate the money trail, to figure out how the money flowed between these fake nonprofits and Somali fraudsters and Minnesota politicians. And I'll tell you, the atmosphere in Minneapolis was electric. I mean, people had this sense of anticipation. Something big is coming. And look, I hope they get to the bottom of it, because we're talking about, some estimates upward of $9 billion stolen. These politicians seem to, at a minimum, have turned a blind eye to the fraud, or even directed people below them to take steps so that it wasn't uncovered. This scandal is not over, and I think it could end with significant action. And again, I think Secretary Bessent is the right man for the job.
So what I think can basically be gleaned from this pollster is that Donald Trump supporters generally believe that he is not hardcore enough. His base clearly wants him to intensify his actions in favor of more aggressive policies, specifically regarding mass deportations and high-profile arrests. We did not elect him to perform business as usual. We demand accountability, and a slap on the wrist is just not good enough for us. Now let's move on to our next clip that highlights some potential criminal charges being brought up against some high-profile Dems that we all know and love to hate for some really good reasons.
Part of following the money, there are evidently some disturbing tapes of A.G. Ellison in meetings with people who donated to him, them calling for political favors to stop the investigations. So we'll see. But again, I don't want to get out ahead of the investigations. It's going to be very methodical. And Chris, I can guarantee you, when the bear trap snaps, we're going to get these folks. And again, we're going to follow the money, whether it's over the two counties here, in Minneapolis, St. Paul's, or whether it's to East Africa. And there's tons of luxury properties, cars that have been bought over there.
I like what I hear from Scott Bessent, but like I said before, I hope he's not just a bag of wind. We really need to get some convictions here, because that's what we voted for. I love the way he uses the bear trap analogy, and I really do hope that his bite is just as hard as his bark. Isn't this insane that we're actually having a conversation about a governor, a congresswoman, and a state attorney general all having connections with convicted fraudsters? Not only were they complicit, but possibly also profiting and benefiting in the way of power from the connection. Truly unbelievable, but with Democrats, anything is possible. And it's not just in Minnesota, it's with Democrats all across the country. But everyone, that's going to be a wrap for this video. I really hope you like the content surrounding Tampon Tim and the Somalians. Sounds like a rock group, doesn't it? If you did, please like, subscribe, and comment. I would really love to hear what you all think. I thank you all very much for your time. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and wherever you are, keep smiling.